20. Favorite foods of 1960s America, a delicious journey through time. There are afternoons I still remember clearly when the sun tilted through the kitchen window, pouring a soft golden layer over the red and white checkered tablecloth. A small radio in the corner played I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles, blending with the gentle sizzle of something baking in the oven. In 1960, the kitchen wasn't just where food was prepared, it was the heart of the home. Pastel-colored refrigerators, mint green, blush pink, or buttery yellow, stood like fashion models. Walnut cabinets gleamed, and above them a clock shaped like a cat swung its tail, its eyes ticking from side to side. And the smells. The smell of Maxwell House coffee in the morning, buttery cookies baking in the afternoon, or a Sunday pot roast simmering from noon till evening. Together they formed the soundtrack of daily life. Americans of that era balanced the recipes passed down from mothers and grandmothers with the allure of modern convenience. On the same shelf, you might find a worn, handwritten recipe book sitting right beside a shiny Swanson TV dinner, a symbol of a no-fuss future. Cuisine in the 1960s was a bridge between family warmth and experimental entertaining, between hometown flavors and European influence, between slow cooking and quick fixes. One TV dinner, a meal in a foil tray, and the glow of the screen. I remember the first time Dad brought home a Swanson TV dinner. The box gleamed, promising a complete meal: turkey, mashed potatoes, peas, and a tiny dessert square. Mom didn't have to juggle pots and pans that night. She just slid the foil tray into the oven and came to sit with us in the living room. That dinner wasn't just about the food. It was about Dad laughing as he fiddled with the antenna on our brand-new color TV, the ping when the oven timer went off, and the novelty of eating in front of the screen instead of at the dining table. People called TV dinners a symbol of modern life, quick and convenient, but for me, the memory isn't about speed. It's about that rare moment when the whole family was looking in the same direction, whether at the screen or at our plates. 2. Jell-O molds. Color at the party table. If any dish turned a 1960s party table into a pop art painting, it was the Jell-O mold. Translucent layers in cherry red, peach orange, and mint green were poured into ring or flower-shaped molds. I still see Mom and the neighbor ladies laughing as they inverted the mold, lifting it to reveal a shimmering, quivering tower. Children squealed. Adults smiled politely, even if the flavor was simple, just cool, sweet, and light. Today, a Jell-O mold might seem overly elaborate for such a humble dessert, but in the 1960s, it was a badge of pride and a visual delight at any community gathering. 3. Meatloaf, the comfort of weeknight dinners. On chilly nights, Mom would pull out the loaf pan. She mixed ground beef with breadcrumbs, chopped onions and eggs, pressing it into shape and spreading a layer of bright red ketchup over the top. As the oven filled the house with its savory scent, I knew the evening would be warm and steady. Meatloaf wasn't fancy, but it had a soul. It belonged to weeknight dinners when Dad asked about school. Mom poured another glass of milk for me, and a thick, moist slice of meatloaf sat beside fluffy mashed potatoes and green beans. These days, many families trade meatloaf for takeout, but whenever I catch the faint smell of roasting beef, that memory returns as if it never left. 4. Tuna casserole, the weeknight lifesaver. Not every evening in the 1960s left time for elaborate meals. On days when Mom worked late at the library and still had to check our homework, tuna casserole came to the rescue. A can of tuna, a handful of egg noodles, a tin of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup, and a sprinkling of crushed crackers on top. Into the oven it went while Mom changed clothes. I set the table, and Dad tuned in to the evening news. When it came out, the topping was golden and crisp, the noodles soft, and the tuna coated in creamy sauce. Not fancy, not fussy, just the kind of meal that pulled us together after a long day. 5. Fondue. Joy that melted away. Fondue arrived in America as a stylish European import, instantly embraced by young couples and friends. I remember Mom and Dad inviting friends over, placing a pot of melted cheese in the center of the table, surrounded by baskets of cubed bread, sausages, and steamed vegetables. Laughter floated around the table as each person speared a piece of bread, dipped it into the bubbling cheese, and lifted it with long, glistening strands stretching between pot and plate. Fondue brought a sense of adventure to the American kitchen, a sign that our taste buds were opening to the world. 6. Deviled eggs. The picnic star. No town picnic in the 1960s was complete without deviled eggs. Halved, hard-boiled eggs, their yolks mixed with mayonnaise, mustard, salt, and pepper, piped back into the whites with a swirl and dusted with paprika. I can still see Mom opening a plastic container to reveal neat rows of yellow and white halves like little soldiers. Children darted forward. Adults nibbled while chatting. Deviled eggs were more than just tasty. They were a social food, easy to eat while standing and talking under the summer sun. 7. Swedish meatballs. From the north to the Christmas table. Before IKEA made them famous in America, Swedish meatballs were already a cherished holiday dish. Small, tender meatballs cooked in a creamy sauce, sometimes served over noodles or mashed potatoes. Mom called it European, yet it fit the American palate perfectly. The richness of the cream, the savory meat, and the gentle warmth of nutmeg made the winter kitchen feel cozier. They came to the table on a silver tray, beside wine glasses for the grown-ups and mugs of hot milk for us kids, a dish forever tied to the sound of Bing Crosby and the glow of Christmas lights. 8. Pineapple upside-down cake. Sunshine on a plate. In a round pan, Mom would lay golden pineapple rings with bright red cherries in the center, drizzle caramel over them, then pour in the cake batter. Once baked, she'd flip the pan to reveal a glossy, sunny face. Pineapple upside-down cake brought a hint of the tropics to suburban America. I remember it at summer gatherings, the table set up in the yard, a fan humming nearby, and condensation beating on glasses of lemonade. One bite of the soft cake, sweet caramel, and tangy pineapple was like catching sunlight between your teeth. 9. Baked Alaska. Magic on the table. If any dessert could make a room go silent for a moment, it was baked Alaska. Ice cream in the center, wrapped in sponge cake, covered with snowy meringue, and briefly baked so the outside turned golden without melting the inside. I remember Mom placing one on the table for Dad's birthday. We stared, amazed at how something cold could survive the oven's heat. It wasn't an everyday dessert, it was a showstopper, a dish that turned a meal into a memory. 10. Ambrosia salad. Holiday sweetness. Ambrosia salad was a mix of fresh and canned fruit, miniature marshmallows, shredded coconut, and a touch of sour cream or mayonnaise. Odd to modern tastes, perhaps, but in the 1960s, it was a beloved holiday treat. At Thanksgiving, it sat in a big glass bowl at the end of the table, yellow pineapple, orange mandarin slices, red grapes, and fluffy white marshmallows. Served at the close of a hearty meal, it was the soft, sweet chord that brought the feast to a gentle finish. 11. Beef Wellington. Elegance on the dinner table. Beef Wellington was never an everyday dish in the 1960s. It was reserved for truly special occasions, a milestone anniversary, an important guest, or the night Dad came home with a promotion. Mom would prepare a tenderloin of beef, wrap it in silky pâté, then seal it inside golden puff pastry. As it baked, the buttery crust turned crisp and fragrant, while the beef inside stayed perfectly pink. I remember how the warm light from the dining room chandelier reflected off the glossy crust, and how carefully each slice was served, as if we were sharing something rare and precious. Beef Wellington wasn't just about flavor. It was about honoring the moment itself. 12. Pot roast. The warmth of Sunday. If Beef Wellington was the showpiece of celebration, pot roast was the heartbeat of a Sunday. By early afternoon, the smell of beef slowly braising with carrots, potatoes, and onions filled every room. The pot bubbled gently on the stove, and now and then Mom would lift the lid, letting a cloud of steam escape. Those days moved slower. Dad read the newspaper, we played outside or finished homework, and by evening we were all drawn back to the table. Pot roast didn't just warm our stomachs, it kept the rhythm of family life steady. 13. Chicken a la king. Creamy comfort. Chicken a la king was a touch of elegance made simple. Shredded chicken, mushrooms, and peppers cooked in a rich cream sauce. Mom often served it over toast points, sometimes rice, and occasionally pasta. One winter evening, I remember sitting by the window watching snow drift down, my plate steaming in my hands. Each bite melted away into the creamy blend of chicken sweetness and buttery sauce. It taught me that refinement doesn't always mean complexity. Sometimes it's about harmony. 14. Shrimp cocktail, elegance in a glass. Shrimp cocktail was the appetizer that marked an upscale evening. In the 1960s, it was a restaurant classic and a hotel lounge favorite. Pink-orange shrimp curled around the rim of a chilled glass. A bright red cocktail sauce, sharp with horseradish, waiting in the center. I still remember my first taste, the cool, sweet shrimp against the bold tang of the sauce and the sense that I was stepping into a more grown-up world. It wasn't a weeknight dish. It was a signal that something special was happening. 15. Green bean casserole, the Thanksgiving constant. Among the roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and stuffing, there was always one green spot on the Thanksgiving table. Green bean casserole, made with green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and crowned with a crisp layer of fried onions. It was both simple and beloved. I loved breaking through that golden topping to find the tender beans and creamy sauce beneath. It was the dish that got kids to eat their vegetables and gave adults the satisfaction of tradition. 16. Surf and turf, the indulgent pair. Surf and turf, beef and seafood together, was the luxury order of the 1960s. A perfectly seared steak sharing the plate with lobster or crab said, "Why choose?" Dad would only order it at a seaside restaurant for special family outings. We'd sit by the window, waves rolling in the dark, and I'd understand even then that food could be an occasion in itself. 17. Bundt cake, the sweet ring. The bundt pan arrived in the 1950s but truly found its fame in the 1960s. Mom loved baking bundt cakes dusted with powdered sugar or drizzled with lemon glaze. Cutting into one revealed its beautiful ridges like the rings of a tree. It was a cake you could bring anywhere, a birthday, a potluck, or simply Sunday coffee with neighbors. 18. Sloppy Joes, joy in a mess. Sloppy Joes, ground beef and tomato sauce on a hamburger bun, were as messy as they were fun. Every bite risked a drip down your chin, and that was part of the appeal. At school, a lunch menu promising Sloppy Joes made the day better instantly. At home, Mom made them on Friday nights, when nobody minded if the tablecloth got a little stained. They were a break from manners and a celebration of appetite. 19. Stuffed peppers, color in the evening. Mom would slice the tops off bright red, yellow, or green bell peppers, hollow them, and fill them with a mixture of seasoned ground beef, rice, and onions. The peppers softened as they baked, their sweetness deepening, the tops crowned with melted cheese. She called it a way to sneak vegetables into dinner, but to me, they were one of the most beautiful dishes she made, edible little lantern. 20. Vienna, sausages and crackers, a quick bite before baseball. On summer evenings before heading to the ballpark, Dad would open a can of Vienna sausages and set them out with saltine crackers. It wasn't glamorous, but it carried the thrill of the game ahead. We'd snack and talk predictions about the score, the taste of the salty crackers and mild sausages forever tied in my mind to the sound of a baseball crowd and the crack of a bat. The foods of the 1960s nourished more than just the body, they nourished the memory. They reflected an era when the family table was the center of the home, where stories were told, laughter was shared, and bonds were quietly strengthened. Today, many of these dishes have faded from everyday life, replaced by new trends and faster meals. But their flavors live on, like the warmth of a TV dinner in its foil tray, the golden glow of a pineapple upside-down cake, or the comforting aroma of a Sunday pot roast drifting out the kitchen door. And maybe that's why we seek them out again, not just to taste the food, but to taste the people, the evenings, and the moments they were part of.